It is not every day that a car brings something new to the automotive industry. In fact, entire nameplates can live and die without bringing about any innovation. So it is very exciting today to be filming with a car that has brought something new to the industry, the Lincoln Nautilus. Now, looking at this vehicle, it probably doesn't appear very innovative. It is a mid-size crossover, something so widespread your eyes probably just glaze over it when you see one. It is a very handsome vehicle, but nothing new. Its powertrain is also very familiar, a turbocharged 4-cylinder, one of the most widely used types of engines on sale today. But in the case of this Nautilus, it is what's inside that counts, and Lincoln has proven that there are multiple ways to bring about change in this industry. Now, before we dive into what makes this Nautilus special, a quick word on Lincoln. Even more than General Motors Cadillac, I would say that Lincoln has been guilty in the 2000s and early 2010s of really just selling chromed, leather-cladded, wood-trimmed Fords. There was not that much distinction between Ford's products and Lincoln's products. That has definitely changed. I would say it started with the 2018 Lincoln Navigator, which just brought on a whole nother level of luxury to the brand. And ever since then, Lincoln as a whole has taken a very premium turn, which is for the better. They ditched their weird alphanumeric naming structure, MKC, MKT, for beautiful model names, Nautilus, Aviator, Corsair, and all of their vehicles are very distinct from their Ford counterparts. Even just looking at this car, I see no resemblance to any Ford models, which you definitely saw in some older Lincoln models. It is a very premium look, kind of reminiscent of Range Rover. I love the two-tone color palette on this particular Nautilus and how Lincoln is spelled out across the back, but also kind of like inset into the light bar. It is overall a very luxurious looking car. And it's not just inside that Lincoln has really stepped up their game and brought new things to the auto industry. Take, for example, these door handles. They are flush with the bottom trim of the windows. So from a distance, it looks like this car doesn't even have door handles. But when you approach the car, they are very intuitive and instantly recognizable for what they are. You just reach your hand in, there's a little button that you pull on, and you can pull the door the rest of the way open. I think it's a great solution to this modern trend of trying to make cars more aerodynamic, and it's still very easy to use. Now, as I mentioned, not every part of the new Nautilus is full of innovation. Under the hood, you are going to find a 4-cylinder engine. This is a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder that makes 250 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, which is plenty adequate for this vehicle. I've really not struggled at all to receive power, and it's actually a rather smooth 4-cylinder too. You really don't feel it in the cabin. A lot of that is to do with the great sound deadening and just you feel very isolated in the cabin of this Nautilus. It's a very premium feeling cabin, and the vibrations of the 4-cylinder don't really make their way into the cabin. There is also a hybrid version of this powertrain available that makes 310 horsepower, so a healthy power bump from this non-hybrid version. It also gets a little better fuel economy, about 30 mpg average versus 24 mpg average in this non-hybrid version. Although the hybrid version does have a CVT transmission, while this has an 8-speed automatic, so that's not as ideal. I don't necessarily think you need the added power. It would definitely be nice. I'm never one to say no to more power, but this powertrain does not feel strained. It feels completely adequate, and I do like the transmission. Really haven't had any issues with it. Added MPG would be great, although 30 MPG isn't excellent for a hybrid SUV. There are definitely more efficient mid-size hybrid SUVs on sale. And if you're doing mostly highway driving, the MPG difference is very minimal. It's only like 1 or 2 MPG. So then you're probably good with this base 4-cylinder. If you live in a city and do a lot of urban driving, you're definitely going to notice the fuel economy benefits of the hybrid Nautilus. All right, but enough beating around the bush. What makes this new Nautilus so impressive? This pillar-to-pillar 48-inch screen. All right, so I am the first to admit that a screen does not make a car futuristic or luxurious, but this screen and the way Lincoln has implemented it is absolutely stunning. The software is great, and frankly, it is just beautiful. So as you can see, there is a lot of information displayed on the screen, but what Lincoln has done a great job is making it all very large and very easy to see. In person, the screen is not that far away from you. I can so easily see all of the weather information on my far right, the time, the music. And what is excellent about this system is how it all blends together seamlessly. There is an actual separation of the screen. These are two different displays right down the middle, but the software all integrates seamlessly. And I love how my speedometer section kind of just blends into the map. I have this like spacescape, planetary scape for the background right now, and the mountain of it just kind of fades into the map for my navigation, which is awesome. And if I had Apple CarPlay connected, any navigation I had on like Apple Maps would pop up in this section too, which is really cool. So then I can be using this screen for like my music or other Apple CarPlay functions. And then over here we have some widgets, which I can customize using this tab on this lower display. Right now I have music, clock, and weather, but I could put my fuel economy up where my music is, or I could easily just slide my weather over to the center. And if all of this is a bit too overwhelming, well, you can enter a calm mode that turns off everything except your instrument cluster. What's more is that there are different themes for the background of this system. So right now I'm in my favorite, which is Inspire. Again, this like planetary spacescape. It is absolutely stunning. And I also love, this is harder to see from where you guys are, but I'll show another clip. When your speed, when you accelerate, there's this white section in the background of the speedometer area that moves to the right the faster you go, and then to the left as you slow down. It's like a visual indication of your speed, and it's like this white glowing and flowing light. It is absolutely stunning. So my three other themes that I have available are Engage, Tranquil, and Constellation. All of them are a bit more minimal than this one. Let's go now to Engage. And in Engage, we can see it's more of a like night sky constellation kind of thing. And my visual representation of my speed is this galaxy that is rotating, and my speed will move across to the right. The next one is Tranquil. This is the simplest theme. So if you are overwhelmed by this system, put on Tranquil. There are a couple stars that prick through the night sky, but it is overall just black. And then the last one is Constellation, which just gives this another beautiful background, another starry night sky with some clouds, and again, a really beautiful visualization of your speed, of this light moving to the right, again, with like a starry night sky. So I like this theme the best, the Inspire theme. I actually find it inspirational. I am so amazed by how beautiful this UI is. Now, in order for this upper screen to be so minimal and large and kind of easy to use and easy to read, there has to be some changes to the rest of the vehicle. So it starts with the steering wheel. This is a very small steering wheel. It is also kind of ovular, similar to something you would find in like the Toyota BZ4X or even the Toyota Prius, where they've had to make a smaller steering wheel to have the instrument cluster above the steering wheel, because your legs both need to be able to clear underneath the steering wheel, and you still need to be able to see over it. It's like a rounded rectangular shape, kind of ovular. And it's definitely unique. Turning this steering wheel is interesting because when you are fully turned like in this direction, it's so tall then versus how wide it is. So it takes some getting used to. I kind of have gotten used to it. It feels a little dinky and a little just undersized in the beginning, but you kind of get used to it. What's interesting is that the new Lincoln Navigator also has this same system. And so it will have this smaller steering wheel. Same with the Ford Expedition, because it has a smaller version of this system. And those are such big cars to have such little steering wheel. So it'll be interesting to see how it feels in those vehicles. But I think it I've slowly gotten used to it in this Nautilus. And then we have this lower screen. Like you saw, this is how you can change your widgets on your right-hand side, how you can turn off portions of the display, but it's also just kind of your standard infotainment system. It's an 11.1 inch screen. In most cars, you would have this and then a normal instrument cluster, and that would be it. I don't find myself thinking that this detracts from this larger screen. I find myself just amazed by this upper screen because it is so clear, so crisp, so beautiful. And this lower screen kind of just fades away and becomes a tool to control this upper screen. Your Apple CarPlay does project here also, so most of the time you're just going to be seeing that. This is also where you have your climate controls, which I am not a huge fan of. You change your airflow through this screen, you change your temperatures through this screen. There are no physical climate controls, which is a bit of a bummer. That is something I prefer. I find it much easier to control physical climate controls while driving than ones through a touchscreen. So I wish Lincoln would bring in a bit of physical controls in that capacity, but there are some physical controls. Other things to note in this screen, we have this kind of shortcuts button to get to a bunch of the different controls. There are massaging seats for the front 2 seats, which are really good. They are quite loud. You can just kind of hear them working all of the time when they are on. So that's just something to note, louder than other massaging seats I have seen in cars. And we also have a digital scent. So there are 3 different scents that you can choose from. They're all quite distinct. They all kind of smell like colognes. We have Mystic Forest, Ozonic Azure, and Violet Cashmere. And they definitely hit you right away. I kind of feel like I'm in a Macy's or something. Smelling them, and they are stored here in the center console. You can open them up and see them there to change them out, because obviously they won't last forever. All right, but let's now focus on the rest of this interior, because a car is not just its screens, but what makes this Nautilus so impressive is that Lincoln didn't just put a large screen in it. They really did go the extra mile with the impressively beautiful software they put in that screen and with the rest of this cabin. The materials and the quality of the finishes are all top notch. I absolutely love the design. These are actually like very dark blue leather seats. I thought they were black until I just opened the door in direct sunlight and noticed that they were a very dark blue. Very beautiful. The craftsmanship is all top notch. I absolutely love the contrast white stitching we get. The speaker grills are very beautiful, and just the overall aesthetic is one of quality, one of luxury. This is not just a leather-cladded, wood-trimmed Ford. Lincoln has come a long way from that era. This is a premium feeling interior. We also do have a few physical controls. I am happy to report there are some shortcut buttons here surrounding your very large volume knob that is like a glass see-through volume knob. So happy to see there's a physical volume knob, happy to see there's a few physical controls. We have a few drive modes: normal, conserve, excite, and slippery. There actually is quite a big difference between the drive modes, which I'll get more into in a minute. And then we have this steering wheel. Again, it is ovular and kind of weird, but it also has buttons that change their function based on what is being displayed in the upper screen, and I don't really like that. The only button continuously illuminated on the steering wheel is to turn on and off your cruise control. And when you do tap on these touchpads on the steering wheel, you do get a illumination on the screen of what the different buttons can do. I don't understand why these buttons aren't just constantly illuminated with single function buttons. That would just be so much easier. People are not going to realize that these blank buttons on the right side of the steering wheel do anything unless you accidentally brush your thumb over it, and then you realize, oh, this top button, because it tells you then in the instrument cluster, oh, that's volume up, this one's volume down, these other ones don't do anything. They don't seem to get that many more functions other than that, so I wish Lincoln would have just given them consistent functions with the description of the function on the steering wheel like a traditional button, instead of this kind of high-tech system that's honestly a lot more confusing to use while driving. But overall, very impressed with this interior. I like the aesthetic. I obviously love the screen, and the screen is also still very easy to see in direct sunlight. It does not get hard to see. They did a great job with the brightness. I haven't really noticed any glares. It's most impressive at night for sure, because that's really when you get to see the most detail of the screen, and there's some ambient lighting in the door panels also that illuminate at night, but it still works perfectly fine during the day. Climbing into the second row of the Lincoln Nautilus, I'm happy to report it is a very pleasant and spacious experience back here. This is a 2-row midsize, kind of on the border between a compact and a 2-row midsize SUV, and second row space there's plenty of it. I have a lot of knee room behind my ideal driving position, enough foot room, and when I sit upright, my hair is just brushing the cutout for this panoramic sunroof, but I do fit. I can also recline my seat somewhat and then really relax here in the back. It's also very comfortable. There's no peasant blockers. I wished to see that here. This is the Reserve 3 trim level, so we are second from the top trim level. Black Label is the top trim level for Nautilus. You can fold down the center armrest to reveal a pair of cup holders as well. There are dual USB-C charging outlets in the back of both seats, so there are 4 USB-C charging outlets for rear seat passengers here in the Nautilus, which is pretty cool. And there is 2 or 3 level heated seats for the outboard seats back here, as well as some air vents. No third zone climate control back here, but that's fine. You get your air vents, which is good enough. And yeah, very spacious. You get to enjoy this panoramic glass roof as well. All right, driving the 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Now, in choosing where to be innovative, mostly on the inside, Lincoln, in order to have the most impact in that innovation, needed to make sure that the rest of the car was at least up to par with the rest of the industry. And I think they have even exceeded the rest of the industry with a lot of the characteristics of this vehicle. One, it is beautiful, super handsome. I absolutely love how this car looks. Again, Range Rover-esque. I think they absolutely nailed the design. Understated, but unquestioningly classy. And then also the driving dynamics are something that they needed to at least be on par with the rest of the industry with, if they were going to make this interior have the maximum impression and be the talking point. And the driving dynamics of this car are quite beautiful. They are kind of old school, comfortable. The suspension is super floaty. It absolutely soaks up the road, and what's more is just how isolated you are in this cabin from the road. It is very quiet in here. Again, you rarely hear the 4-cylinder working. The speakers are also really good, so you can turn them up really loud and absolutely just completely drown out the world around you. I am absolutely blown away by this vehicle. We're going 60 miles an hour right now, and it's super quiet in here. You get a little bit of tire noise. The surface of the road just changed, and you get a little more tire noise inside the cabin, but overall, I am very impressed. When you put your foot down, power comes. It takes a while to build, but this is not the most athletic vehicle. If I use one of my physical controls to move over into Excite mode, the character of the vehicle actually changes rather dramatically. The suspension becomes much less floaty. It's much firmer. Steering becomes very weighty and heavy, but in a strange way. It kind of feels sluggish. This isn't a sports car. I don't really recommend driving in Excite mode. And then when you do get sharp impacts, the ride is definitely firmer. I was with a passenger in this car who gets carsick easily, and they found the pretty floaty suspension a little nauseating. So Excite mode was good for that because it helped level out the car and not make it as bouncy. But I definitely recommend driving this car in its, you know, conserve or normal mode. I've just been in normal the whole time, and that's really where this car feels at home. In terms of real world MPG, if you've seen my videos, you know I live in a pretty dense urban area. I live in LA, so my MPG figures are always down. They're always very low, but comparing them then across the board can be done as I drive all of my vehicles in the same settings. I've been averaging about 17 MPG in this vehicle, which for a turbocharged 4-cylinder mid-size SUV actually isn't that bad. That's better than what I got in the Hyundai Santa Fe, which had a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Obviously, the hybrid Nautilus would definitely get much better fuel economy. Hybrids excel more in urban driving because the stop and start traffic, they're able to use regenerative braking in order to fill up the battery pack and then use more of the battery pack for pulling away. But what's nice about this Turbo 4 setup is it's not jarring to drive. Sometimes Turbo 4s can be a little difficult to like pull away from a stop smoothly because they require so much RPMs in order to move these heavy vehicles off the line. But again, you really don't notice this Turbo 4. Not upset about it in the slightest. All right, and going back to comfort for a moment, not only is the suspension very comfortable, we're on 21-inch rims. You can get slightly larger wheel sizes and smaller ones, but I think the suspension is great on these 21s. But these seats are very comfortable. Lincoln makes some very comfortable seats that are adjustable in many different ways. You can adjust each individual thigh support, which is pretty cool, and they're massaging, which is also really good. You do have to control the massage in the touchscreen, which I don't love. It can be a little difficult to do while driving. I'd recommend doing it at a stop. But overall, very comfortable seats, very comfortable suspension, and it has a really quiet cabin, which also just helps this feel like a really luxurious place to spend time, which it is. So that's the 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. I definitely didn't go into this year expecting to be super impressed by a Lincoln, but this Nautilus has left me very impressed. It is an incredibly comfortable vehicle, and it has some of the most cool and futuristic technology I have seen in any car I have ever driven. Now, we must talk about price. The Nautilus starts just above $50,000, but you're probably going to be paying more for one. This Reserve 3 trim level, again, the second from the top, sits at $67,400 with destination charge. Again, this car has things like massaging seats, that panoramic sunroof, 21-inch rims, and no matter which Nautilus you get, you will still be receiving that 48-inch display, which is really what makes this car so impressive. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.